We release a document known as the Texas, the State Plan for the Education of Gifted and Talented Students. And within that state plan, we are presented with a definition. So, a gifted and talented student means that a child or youth who performs at or shows the potential for performing at a remarkably high level of accomplishment when compared to others of the same age, experience, or environment, and who exhibits high performance capability in an intellectual, creative, or artistic area, or possesses an unusual capacity for leadership or excels in a specific academic field. So this is found in our Texas Education Code, and we strive to place students for services who meet this definition of gifted and talented in the state of Texas. What you might see with a child exhibiting gifted behaviors is asynchronous or uneven development, which may cause difficulty in relating to self or others. So there is often a discrepancy between a child's actual age and then what they can do cognitively or their social and emotional state. And so this mismatch and that disparity in the chronological age and then the age where you see the child exhibiting gifted behaviors may be known as asynchronous development. We may also see a strive for perfectionism. We may see a child focusing more on the inability to do things than their ability to do things. Some children may get their energy from other peers, and we see this in extrovert behaviors, and some children may get their energy from being alone. We see this as introvert behaviors. And giftedness has an emotional as well as an intellectual component. So that intellectual complexity goes hand in hand with an emotional depth, and gifted behaviors may be demonstrated through deep and complex thinking. Or we may say that emotional behaviors may be demonstrated at heightened levels with complexity as well. So we have some emotional intensities, cognitive intensities, and maybe some behavioral intensities as well. So how a student can be brought into the GT identification process starts with a gifted and talented referral. This referral can come from a parent, it can come from a teacher, it can even come from a peer, it can come from the student themselves. So we accept identification referrals from any of those people that I just mentioned. One way that parents and family members and teachers as well will look for these behaviors or this performance is related to what is documented through this document that's compiled for you, which is known as characteristics of giftedness. And so when we get into this characteristics of giftedness, and I'm just going to switch my tab right here so we can see it. It starts out with showing that hold on, and take just a minute to load. It does start out with this disclaimer to note, and we strongly believe this in Alvin ISD, that no gifted individual is exactly the same. And so each individual will present their own unique patterns and traits. And there are many traits that gifted individuals have in common, but no gifted learner exhibits those same traits in every area all the time. So this is a list of traits that may help you understand whether or not your child is exhibiting these gifted behaviors. We've done a lot of work the past couple of years to just really look into what giftedness looks like and how it may look different in individuals. And so I had compiled this resource for our educators in Alvin ISD, and I'll share it with you today so that you can look through it. We will be sharing out the slide deck from today, so don't worry, you'll have access to this. But just know we have our traditional traits of giftedness that we see that come from the National Association of Gifted Children. And these traits are noted in the different domains of cognitive area or domain, the creative area or domain, affective and behavioral as well. And so you can see through this document that there are many different traits of giftedness that we have often used over the years to understand what giftedness looks like. But we also need to turn our attention to what this looks like in the case of English learners. And so sometimes our gifted ELs are overlooked through the identification process. There are barriers in place. And so we can understand our English learners differently just by looking at these characteristics of giftedness that help us form that understanding. For example, if a student is able to code switch between their heritage language and English, that takes a lot of work, and it does take high ability to do that, just because of the processing that takes place during that code switching. Another example would be for a student to acquire English or a new language faster than their peers. So these types of abilities are heightened, and they may help us understand what giftedness looks like in our English learners. And there are many other examples. This is available through TEA's website, Equity in Gifted and Talented Education. They continue to note characteristics of twice exceptional learners. And this is an area where we are really embracing our forward motion with trying to find students that may be identified as twice exceptional, and just really have a deeper understanding of what testing might look for our students that are potentially 2E, in order to cast a wide net and to embrace an inclusive process here in Alvin ISD. So that would be an example of just some different areas, and it just continues to go on and on and on. We get into gender differences, more information about emergent bilingual students, students with multi-needs, and then there also is a comprehensive list of additional resources that we would want to share with our community partners, so that we can increase referrals coming into Alvin ISD and be able to test more students for the potential of placement of more students into the Alvin ISD GT program. Our referral process has changed. We have opened up our referrals. We used to only accept referrals for elementary age students to be tested in the spring, and we have now opened that up to year-round referrals. I'll show you where you can find more information in just a moment. But just to start, we often get a lot of questions about kindergarten. So we do full kinder screening here in Alvin ISD. That means that all of our kindergartners, each and every one of our kindergartners, are screened. And then we have a large group of students that moves into the kinder testing process. So last year, we actually moved about 60% of our referrals into the testing process, and then did a deeper dive with that testing in the collection of artifacts, the collection of teacher observation inventories, to make decisions as to which of our kindergarten students would be placed for services based on a multitude of assessments. And so no need to worry about kinder referrals. All of our students will be screened from kindergarten. That typically happens when we come back from our fall break. We used to do our screening of kinders very early in the school year. So end of August, beginning of September, we have completely moved away from that. And we do not screen until late October, beginning of November, so that our teachers and our specialists have time to get to know those kinder students and start making those observations, and so that our kindergarten students feel more comfortable in their classroom. And when the specialists come into the room to do the testing, they've already gotten to know the specialist, and they're familiar with that person. So it's not such a difficult testing process. We've also shortened our kinder screening process as well. So we collect a multitude of information, but it doesn't take as long. It used to take 3 days. Now we're doing it in 1 day. So we've streamlined our process and made it better for our kiddos. And then we have a nice screening output that we're able to analyze in order to move a large number of students into that kinder testing process. For our 1st through 12th grade, if you want more information on referrals, you are going to click this link. This first link is going to take you to the Alvin ISD webpage. Just again, like I said, it's going to take just a moment for my screen to switch over. And so when you get into the Alvin ISD website through the Department of Advanced Academics, you'll get all of the information here under the GT identification process tab. And when you scroll down, you can see that there's information here about where you would get referrals. Okay. And so you have, we do have a new referral and testing timeline. So I'll go over that in just a moment. But in order to access the online referral form, you'll want to click this second bullet. When you open it up, it's going to take you to an online referral form. What I'm very excited to bring to you with this online referral form is there are characteristics that the parents and the families will fill out an observation inventory on, and those characteristics are present on that observation and inventory form. And they are aligned with some of those characteristics that I just shared with you on that characteristics of giftedness document. So we have a nice alignment, an efficient alignment for parents and families to be able to answer about their students that goes with not only those characteristics of giftedness document, but those characteristics of giftedness are also on our observation inventories that the educators within the district fill out. So we have an alignment through those processes in those different areas. So that would be the second bullet that you click for the online referral form. And then at this top referral form, this is what we've done some changing this year. Again, let me switch the tab. So I look like it switched over. And so let me pull this up so it makes it a little bit bigger. So we do have a new timeline this year. And what you'll see is that we are collecting referrals through the first, second, and third 9 weeks. We have a partial referral during that third 9 weeks. Previous to this year, for our little ones that were in elementary school, we were collecting referrals in the spring only. So this is much different that we opened up our referrals and we are testing many kids this fall. And so you do have to wait. If your child was tested last spring, you would have to wait 1 full year period for that testing to be completed again. But after then, those referrals can come in whenever they're submitted. Your testing will always occur with a 1 year period between testing. This does note that kinder screening starts in the fall semester. Our GT students that are transferred, that testing can be done any year round. And then there is a separate page when we get into our WINGS testing. So this is on the second page, you would find the WINGS Academy testing timeline. And so you want to make sure that you turn your attention to that if you are looking at WINGS and you're on the website and trying to learn more about the WINGS process. And so with that, we've already tested many more students this year in the fall semester. So that's really exciting to see. So those 2 tabs are available here, and I encourage you to go onto our website to find more information about that. The referral process for transfer students and for private homeschool students is presented here. So our students that were identified in another district and coming to our district what you can do is you can reach out to the specialist. If parents, if this applies to you, you would reach out to the specialist and just let your specialist know that your child was identified in another district, and then we'll start working on getting those records. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get the records through their permanent file, and sometimes permanent files take many weeks to transfer into our system. And so oftentimes what the specialist will do is the specialist will reach back out to the parent and see by chance if you have a copy of that documentation. And if you have that documentation, it's oftentimes faster for us to get the documentation from the parents than it is from the former school. We can also reach out to the former school district, the former campus, the district advanced academics department, or the GT department, whatever it's called, and try to get those records as well. But it really does take, a community effort to try to get this from another campus. I wish that it was easier. It just it doesn't prove to be an easy process, and I like to work with the parents on it. Plus, when we're working with the parents, we have some time to try to get to know that child through the parent's perspective. But we want to make sure that we get those records. We will evaluate those records to determine if further testing is needed. Often, if a abilities assessment was given in the former district and it was given within 2 years, we can still use that data. So it is helpful to get those test results from the other district for us to evaluate to see what further testing is needed. We have a process for private and homeschool students. And so we have summer screenings for our private and homeschool students. That screening begins in the summer with me. I will do that testing for that private or homeschool student. And then that process is finished up within the first couple of weeks on campus. So the campus is the one who actually makes the decision through the identification and assessment committee meeting on the campus. I do not participate in the decision. I will do the screening and collect that initial evidence, and then I pass it on to the campuses so they can continue with the processes that they normally have in place. So
Dr. Smith, sorry. There's a question here. If the student is already in the GT program at home campus, this is a second grader, can she be tested for wings?
So the way that our wings screening works is all of our students that are tested in on a campus, our wings coordinator, her name is Miss Sammy Gardner. She screens and goes through every single piece of data that comes through our campuses. So should a wings referral be made, she would be reaching out to the parent to make those further arrangements for further testing. But every single piece of data that is collected goes through her eyes, and we are looking at that data continuously in order to make those determinations for who would get that wings referral. And that was a great question.
Thank you. And before you move on, there's another parent that is asking if her daughter was tested last year and transferred to Alvin ISD, how all this process applied to her now?
Yeah, so if the parent, what you want to do is reach out to the advanced academic specialists on campus, and we can talk through the evaluation of that data and determine which extra testing is needed. And then so we can bring them into the GT identification process on campus as a transfer student. But the best thing to do is for the parent to reach out if possible. Like I said before, sometimes TREX records take a couple of weeks to come in. And so it's much faster for the parent to reach out to the specialist.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So as we move into talking about the identification and assessment process, please understand that we do intake qualitative and quantitative measures, and these are used for GT program placement. We use abilities tests. We have creative measures that we can use. We have achievement tests and performance data that we look at. We definitely would collect an observation inventory from an educator for each one of our students that is going through the process. But it is a mixed methods of collection of data, both qualitative and quantitative. And it's not just one abilities test, it's multiple abilities tests, because we are really looking for a preponderance of evidence. And so we are going to hone into those strengths that the students demonstrate on those abilities assessment. So the final determination of a student's need for gifted and talented students is made by a committee of district educators who have had specific GT training. So this identification and assessment meeting is composed of the specialist, of a counselor, of an administrator, and of teachers. And so as the group joins and starts going through the data, their goal is to make a balanced review of the data and to really look for a preponderance of evidence in order to make a placement decision for the need of services through the GT program for the students. We've had from 1 year, from 2023 to 23-24, we have had a 26% increase in students identified in Alvin ISD, and we have addressed areas of underrepresentation through this new process of testing and data collection, and our a new form of a committee meeting that we have here in Alvin ISD. And that is the result of our teachers building knowledge and looking at the characteristics of giftedness for gifted behaviors in a much different way than we had in years past. And so that is, the work of the specialists working with the teachers to try to find more students to refer, to work with their home communities, to reach out to parents, to answer questions when the parents have questions about the GT identification and assessment process. But it certainly is an accolade not to be ignored, but it is, the work of so many different partners in order to find more students that need to be identified and placed for services over a very short amount of time. So once a student is placed for services, what do those services look like? So at the elementary level, we do have cluster classes, but we also have GT students that are not in cluster classes. It just depends on their specific needs. So if there is more of a foundational need for that reading and math knowledge and skills to be built, and we kind of need to pull away from those services that would be received in a cluster class, we can do that. So we can still provide services for GT students outside of a cluster class because we have push in and pull out, and most of our schools are doing a combination of both of those. So it's the advanced academic specialist that's working closely with those teachers and those cluster teachers to make sure that they are meeting the specific needs of each identified child. And this does look entirely different from campus to campus. We want our specialists to be responsive to the students on campus, responsive to the teachers that they are supporting, to ensure that we are securing maximum student outcomes with excellence in those services that we provide. And it is custom tailored to what the kids need on that specific campus. So our GT program components do include, the work of the GT cluster teacher and then the advanced academic specialist. Again, this does actually happen outside of cluster classes as well. So we do have a different model as we continue to find more students. Of course, our services need to change a little bit, but these are just some examples of our GT program components. Most of our specialists are involved in a extracurricular activity outside of academic UIL. So we have clubs, we have robotics, we have student council that our specialists will participate in, the spelling bee. They're often seen as the sponsors for that. When our advanced academic specialists are working with our GT students, they are working through social emotional learning, a TPSP or an independent research project. And these we have, if you've ever been to a showcase on an elementary campus, you will notice that we have a large amount of students that are participating in these independent projects. So it's really moved above and beyond just our GT students participating in the independent research projects. Our cluster classes are participating, and at some of our campuses, our dual language campuses, both at Passmore and at Merrick, we see students participating in independent research projects as a partnership between the advanced academic specialists and the dual language teachers in departments. So that's super exciting. The specialists will also work on thinking skills with kids. Of course, we have depth and complexity that is utilized in their classes and then utilized with the specialists as well. We have really embraced a research model, moved above the independent research model and moved into working with our 4th and 5th graders on APA citations, so they are prepared for their junior high projects that they will continue to be in. And then what that looks like at high school is their research and seminar classes. So our goal is to ensure we have a fidelity of services through a multitude of outreach that, again, is focused on creating excellent student outcomes for our students. At the secondary level, our GT students are serviced through APA classes. They may be serviced through the MAP program, the Magnet Academic Program. AP classes, which are College Board classes provided at the high school, taught at a college level. Our GT students do also participate in dual enrollment, and then we have the STEM Academy as well. So if you want to know more about junior high advanced academics programs, if you're a 5th grade parent, you want to stay tuned to the communication that will be coming out in December, because you'll get to learn a little bit more about what junior high advanced academics programs look like. We will have a parent meeting in January, and we would love for you to join those meetings. We have one both at Harvey and one at McNair Junior High. So that's 2 opportunities to learn about our junior high programs, because we do have specific programs for advanced academics at that level. The advanced academic specialist is still in place at the junior high and high school. So we do have an advanced academic specialist on every one of our elementary campuses, every one of our junior high campuses, and every one of our high school campuses. This is a unique model to Alvin ISD. There are not many other school districts in the state of Texas that provide this. But the advanced academic specialist, especially at the junior high, this is someone that's going to offer individual and group support for our students and for our teachers in order to help implement and produce advanced coursework and product. And that these teachers are going to be teachers that participate in specialized professional development throughout the school year. And these classes, again, are a way that our GT students are serviced. And we also have some outside sources as well, some support that the advanced academic specialist will provide to those students. So this wide range of learning experiences at this level, it may include out-of-school competition options. So in high school, when we get into UIL, there's often out of town or out of district competitions for UIL at the high school level. But we also have in-school individualized learning opportunities in different content areas. And so we see that through our APA classes, through our MAP class, and through the STEM Academy. The advanced academic specialist at the junior high or the high school campus works as a liaison with parents and families for GT students. You'll see that the model for secondary service design really relies on a partnership between the teacher with GT students and the advanced academic specialist. At the junior high level, our advanced academic specialists are also teaching anywhere from 1 to 2, sometimes 3 classes per day. But the rest of their time when they're not teaching at the junior high is spent working with teachers in partnership to ensure that those teachers are providing that higher order thinking and questioning through depth and complexity framework, that they're integrating depth and complexity within their lessons. They're helping to support that independent research model for the junior high. And they're helping the teachers with that critical and evaluative thinking, and really seeking to provide gifted services with fidelity through a community-based approach. We still do have secondary referrals. So if we've had students that are overlooked at the elementary, we often find these students at the junior high or the high school. And often our MAP testing that is done in the spring semester is a way for us to find giftedness, because now we really get into an area where we can look for specialized gifted attributes such as high ability in math, and our students will often end up in that math MAP program. And so we haven't actually identified for GT yet when they were younger, but through the MAP program that becomes a referral, and then we go back and we do the GT testing. Our teachers and our advanced academic specialists are working to support the GT students' cognitive, social, and emotional needs. Again, in all that we do in advanced academics, we strive to meet our mission. And our mission of our advanced academics program is to support each and every one of our GT students and our advanced learners in order to foster the academic and social emotional needs of the students. And we want to do that by cultivating relationships, strengthening their critical thinking skills, their evaluative thinking skills. We work to provide a greater depth and complexity in their learning. So they might stay within that same teak that they're learning, but they're going to take a deeper dive into it. Or sometimes they need to go above and beyond. Another part of our mission is to ensure that we are differentiating those learning experiences in hopes to encourage lifelong learning for our students. If you need to contact us, you can reach out to me. I'm available through email. You can call and leave me a phone message and I'll get back with you. And then also we have a list of our advanced academic specialists. When you go to the advanced academics department page, you will find a list of our advanced academic specialists. We have our high school specialists listed, our junior high specialists listed, and then that's the information for our Wings and STEM Academy coordinator, Ms. Sammy Gardner, as well as a list of our elementary advanced academic specialists. And so you can find all of this on our district webpage, and just give us a call, give us an email, and we will reach out and support you as needed. And so that is the end of the presentation.